Are you looking to expand your aesthetic practice and attract high-quality new patients? Discover the power of digital marketing in growing your practice with a personalised strategy session. Schedule your meeting with Ryan today by visiting www.businessofesthetics.org/MSM and take the first step towards transforming your practice with the potential of digital marketing.
You're invited to join our exclusive monthly webinar brought to you by the Business of Aesthetics community. Don't let this chance slip through your fingers. Secure your spot now for a game-changing experience. Register for free on our homepage at www.businessofesthetics.org and get set to transform your strategies.
Welcome to another episode of the Business of Aesthetics podcast, sponsored by Equa Marketing. Join our Facebook or LinkedIn communities to network with our guests and other professionals by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Today, we're thrilled to introduce Ryan Davies, a digital marketing advisor at Equa Marketing. As a certified Sandler sales and challenger expert, he brings innovative sales techniques that drive results. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another captivating installment of the Business of Aesthetics podcast. I'm Ryan Davies, your co-host at the Business of Aesthetics community and podcast. Before we immerse ourselves in the riches of today's episode, I want to express my profound gratitude to all of you, our incredible listeners from across the United States and all corners of the globe. It's your willingness to embrace and share this podcast, your invaluable insights and experiences that have collectively transformed our community into a thriving epicenter of wisdom and innovation. Your unwavering dedication is the cornerstone of our success, and we cannot thank you enough. And with that, I'm so excited. We're jumping right into today's topic, filling your schedule, digital marketing strategies for growing aesthetic practices. And who better to be able to talk about this, the CEO of Equa Marketing, the face of the Business of Aesthetics community and podcast, Narain Aruraja. Narain, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I guess one of the reasons I founded a Business of Aesthetics is there's so much knowledge that's inside our community of 30,000 people, but we don't really get access to that knowledge. So many of us are making mistakes and wasting time and money and then learning things the hard way. So hopefully, like all of our episodes, including this one, teaches you something that perhaps would save you a lot of time and money and a lot of pain and suffering. So pay attention and hopefully you get some points from this.
Excellent. Narain, we're always going to get some great points from this. We're going to have a lot of fun doing this as well. So I'm super excited for us to have a little fun here with today's episode. And when we're talking about this, filling your schedule and marketing strategies for growing aesthetic practices, I mean, this is what you and I, love to talk about. We live, eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So really a fun topic for us. And, marketing is being, that two-sided coin around, are you being found? And once you're found, are you being chosen? But really, there's a lot of common reasons why marketing efforts are failing, and they're not getting those new patients actually booking. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about those common reasons why you see that current marketing efforts aren't attracting enough new patients for aesthetic practices.
That's a good place to start. Every aesthetic practice needs new patients. If you were to survey every owner of an aesthetic practice, like what keeps you up at night, I would argue almost everyone would say the number one thing that keeps them up at night is not getting enough new patients. So we all know that's a common need, probably the most important need that you as a practice owner have. Now, the question is, why are most of you or most practice owners struggling with this? Again, I'm talking 80 to 90% of them would say, I don't get enough new patients. And I think there's a lot of mistakes, and I can give a kind of a litany of mistakes that people make. But I just want to kind of focus on the most important mistakes. And if you can, figure that out, then everything else kind of falls into place. I think the number one mistake people make is they don't take enough time to understand the different ways they can market their practice and what's the cost versus benefit. In other words, let's say one of the ways to market your practice is through, Google Ads, right? So you need to know how much would it cost to get a patient through Google Ads, right? Same thing, you can get new patients through SEO. Again, I'm limiting myself to digital marketing. Again, how much does it cost for me to get a new patient through SEO? And that's a really good way to think about it, because now you can start finding out which marketing is the most best, meaning the lowest cost, best outcomes, from a cost standpoint gives you the best results. And now you can make good, smart decisions. So being able to track these things, like what is my marketing costing me? How many new patients am I getting? And then being able to compare apples to apples. So, okay, SEO is costing me $50 a new patient. Google Ads are costing me $250 a new patient. So obviously now you have data to say, okay, why am I doing Google Ads when I could be doing SEO, right? So really, really, like I think that's a good place where I would start. Start tracking all your marketing and figuring out what's costing how much. Now you can like lean into the ones that are working the best, the 80-20 rule, right? Do the things that are giving you the most results and forget about all the things that are giving you the least results. So I think that's where I would start. I think just by fixing that mistake, Ryan, practices can totally transform themselves. Leave alone anything else. You don't need to be a marketing expert. You don't need to be a scientist to kind of do what I'm telling you. You just need to just use grade 5 logic, right? How much does it cost for me to get a new patient from this method versus that method? Do more of the method that's costing you the least. Simple. I
Love it.
guess if I
I
were
think that's incredibly well said. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Is being able to maximize your ROI on your marketing, and marketing should pay for itself many times over, right? That's the point of it, is that it's an investment at the start, but then that investment is realized over and over and over again as you continue to grow your practice. And maybe we could talk about that, about optimizing your strategies, not just for today, but to support the growth of the practice, additional associates, expansion to new locations, all of those types of things.
Yeah, this is an awesome topic because having done this, I guess, going back to 2007, 17 years now, I still have to this day clients who have been with me from day one. Dr. Mary Lupo, she was my very first aesthetic client. She's a world renowned dermatologist. I mean, she advises, the companies that create products like, Botox and so forth. And she's a who's who, like she's on the cover of every magazine, and, like she's a world renowned person, and all these leaders in aesthetics, all these people running multi-billion dollar companies in aesthetics, pay homage to, and she's still a client. And one of the things that she and I talked about even back then, but even recently when I have conversations with new clients, is you need to understand the landscape, right? You need to understand what your options are. So as a business owner, your options are SEO, Google Ads, social media ads, and organic social media. And every one of these options has pros and cons. Every one of these options have different ways to go about accomplishing them. I'll just quickly go through at a high level what these options are. So SEO is getting free traffic from Google. It's the hardest, but it's the most lucrative, meaning your cost in the long term would be a fraction of the cost of anything else. So it is the hardest, but the most lucrative. That's SEO. The other benefit of SEO is somebody else can do it for you, assuming they know what they're doing and they have a track record and they have a massive team to do all the work. The second one is Google Ads. So, how do you get people to find you by where you pay for those ads next to those Google searches? We all know that 90% of the people start their research to find an aesthetic practice on Google. So both Google Ads and SEO are very handy. Google Ads, the plus is you can turn on an ad campaign tomorrow. The minus is it's a lot more costly, so 5 times more costly than SEO. And the other minus is the price will continue to go up. So if you're paying $5,000 today for Google Ads versus $1,000 for SEO, then in 2 years that 5,000 might be 6,000-7,000. Why? The cost per click goes up. Google has to make more and more money, so they have to find some way to squeeze more money out of you. So that's it's Google Ads. Next is social media. Again, there's free social media. That works for the top 1%. I call them influencers. They get so much free traffic. But SEO only belongs to the top 5%. Social media belongs to the top 1%, the influencers. How do you know you're an influencer? You will have 100,000 people, following you, et cetera, depending on the platform. The top 3 platforms in my mind are top 2 are TikTok and Instagram. And then the third one is YouTube. They're all, video marketing platforms. You create something, and once you have 100,000 followers, then whatever your post is shown to those 100,000 people, and immediately you will get lots of views. And the reason you need, you know, thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of views is social media is not local. So somebody in Bangladesh is going to see your stuff. Somebody in, you know, Europe is going to see your stuff. So you need massive numbers to get enough people in your community to make it worth your while. So the question there is, are you going to be in that 1%? Are you going to get to that 100,000 follower mark? And the next piece is social media ads. Social media ads are the most expensive. So I would only do it once I have topped up SEO, first SEO, second Google ads, and then finally social media ads. So that's when I would leverage social media.
I think that's absolutely perfect. Well said, and it kind of really breaks down the importance of each of them, the different options that are out there that practice owners are faced choosing from, and then being able to make that that decision. And again, as you mentioned earlier, understand that cost relativity between them all, and what's really going to deliver for you in the long run, and how you kind of have to build that platform now for something that's going to continue to run over and over again, instead of paying for it over and over and over again over time to increase that patient volume count as you grow. And with this, there's good digital marketing techniques can really help solidify that consistent flow of new patients. So when we're talking about that, it's, minimizing the gaps in the schedules, supporting a thriving practice, preventing those no-shows and things along those lines. What are some of those techniques that are really going to help, make sure that you've got that steady stream of patients coming and that you're being as full and productive as you want to be?
Absolutely. And I think you asked another question, like, going from startup to a 5 million or a massive practice. So I was just thinking of a client we started working with, I guess, 7 years ago. Today, he runs a $4 million practice. When he started, he was a startup, right? He attended an event recently and he was so appreciative. So he shared his story. But so the different marketing methods I talked about, SEO, Google ads, social media ads, do play a role. Organic social media is the only exception, because if you don't want to be the influencer, spend 15 to 20 hours a week trying to get to 100,000 followers, then that might be a goose chase. So don't go on that goose chase unless you're willing to stick with it till you get to 100,000 followers. But the other three should be part of your playbook. Like I said, SEO is the lowest cost. So I would do that first. I would max that out first, because it'll cost you 1/5 of Google ads. Then once that's maxed out, you still need new clients, then go to Google ads. You still need new clients, go to social media ads, right? So that's the way I would think about it. So coming back to your question, I think I would use all three, but I would definitely focus on SEO. SEO, the way to think about it is, how many keywords are you ranking for? The goal is to be in the top 5%. So minimum, you should rank for 100 keywords or more on page one. Obviously, you don't stop there. You can keep going, because, like, I have clients who have been with me for 7 years. Their cost of an SEO patient is 1/10 of the cost of a Google Ads patient. Somebody else who has been doing this even longer and even better, their cost might be 1/15 the cost of a Google Ads patient. So SEO is massively advantageous, but it just takes longer and longer to become stronger and stronger, as long as you know what you're doing, and you stay on top of it. So SEO is in my mind, the lowest cost and the most effective. But if you're going to retire in a year, don't do SEO, because it'll at least take a year for you to see results. So if you're going to be practicing for like, in other words, if you're digging in, if you're like 1 foot out the door, like, I'm not really sure, then don't do it. But if you're digging in and you're like, I'm going to make this work, then SEO is definitely the place that I would start. And then I would use Google Ads next to top up, and then social media ads on top of that if I still need more new patients and I have the budget.
Perfect. And I think, does that, just to kind of expand on that, that's kind of your way that you would say how to achieve growth and profitability, but not overspend on your marketing efforts. So maybe touch on that a little bit, about the fact of how, because I'm a big fan as well of how SEO is just that, like you mentioned, that steady effort where you're not constantly having to increase your budget in this highly commoditized, highly competitive area as new players enter the game, to be able to be both cost effective with your marketing and growing practice profitability.
Yeah, so I'll give you 2 case studies. So one is a practice out of Portland. They're still a client. They started with us in 2011 or 12. When they came to us, they were spending a massive amount of money on Google Ads, right? and they were getting a fraction of the new clients. Then they started working with SEO, and their budget went down by 25%. So I'm just using numbers. I don't want to share actual data or the name of the client because it's not fair. I didn't get their permission. So let's say they were spending $10,000. Now they're spending $2,500, but they're getting better results than they were getting with $10,000 worth of Google Ads. Now think about that for a minute, right? The $7,500 you're saving, that's seven. That's 90,000 a year. Now multiply that by 10 years. That's $900,000 that goes into the owner's pockets, right? Actually, they're getting double the results they were getting with $10,000 and saving, 90,000 a year. Now, we all work to make a profit. So why are you leaving money on the table? These things that are more expensive can really, really, really hurt you. Another example, plastic surgeon, Beverly Hills, again, still a client, started with us, like going back to, I think, 2010. He just graduated. He's one of those, strong individuals. He's like, I'm going to open up a practice in Beverly Hills, the toughest market on the planet for plastic surgeons. And then, he was doing so much Google Ads, and then he let go of all of that, and he put the budgets towards SEO. And the ROI, comparatively speaking, is 30 to 1. So, instead of spending $30,000, he's spending $1,000. That's how much of a difference it is. But obviously, that's over a 12-year period. The SEO gets better and better and better and better. So it's a great way to think about, marketing. It's a great way to think about, saving money and doing well. It's like, some people think, it's either or. Some people think, at least in marketing, you have to spend so much money to have an advantage. You don't, but as long as you have the right partners and you're doing the right things, you don't need so much money to have an advantage.
And I think one of the things that, again, huge piece of marketing is that kind of social proof of what you do it well, and that trustworthy nature that Google looks for, and a potential new patient is going to look for. And really what comes around that is being able to showcase your patient experience, your brand, who you are, and really that satisfaction that your patients are getting from you. You work so hard for that. I know all the practice owners I talk to, this is the number one top thing of mine, beyond even bringing in new patients, right? It's always, what level of care am I providing? And are my patients really happy, right? And that leads to a whole bunch of new doors opening up from that standpoint. But talk to us a little bit about how practices can leverage these positive patient outcomes to attract more new patients in turn.
Yeah, so SEO or Google Ads will get the person to go to your website, but they have to pick and choose to call you, right? So do you have before and afters? Do you have compelling, easy to understand short videos that makes people feel welcome, makes people feel like they can talk to you, make people feel like, you are the right doctor for them, right? So that's where the patient experience starts, the website itself. Even like giving them confidence. Let's say you want awards, you want to highlight those. Again, the ones who have a award highlighted versus the ones who don't, big difference in how many of them end up booking appointments, because we all want to go to the safe choice. And when you win an award, automatically we think you are a safe choice. Another proof people look for is Google reviews. Like, do you have, 100, 200, 300 reviews? What's your average rating? Is it 4.5? Is it 4.4, versus 3.5? So these are all things that in my mind where the patient experience starts, the website, the Google reviews. But then it doesn't end there, right? The next part of the patient experience is your first human-to-human contact. That's where they're calling your office, somebody's answering the phone. And unfortunately, I've been doing this for so long, and one of the things we do for our clients is look at the entire experience. So we even record the calls, we track the calls, so we can tell you how many people are calling, how many new patients are in that pool, how many of them are booking, how many are not booking. Imagine if, like, the average practice only books 1 out of 3. Imagine you are in that average bucket. Only 1 out of 3 people are booking new clients, right? It's like you have this amazing marketing, you are spending so much money, but then it's getting wasted because that phone experience is not optimal. Imagine calling Apple and having a really crappy experience. You wouldn't, the image you have of Apple, the way you think about Apple will immediately drop. And it happens the second time, happens the third time, you think Apple is average. Why would you pay double for something that is average versus get the similar product from China for half the price, right? You wouldn't. But people believe Apple is amazing because their entire experience is amazing. So I really think, phone experience is something you also need to pay attention to in addition to Google reviews and the website. And these are details that I can go through, and we can do like entire episodes on each one of those details, but I'm just giving you the highlights for today.
So with all of that in mind, we're trying to talk about, are you showcasing your trustworthiness? Is your site set up for success? Are you addressing all of those underlying issues that you mentioned, and there are many of them, to be able to extract the most out of your marketing efforts? How does one even get started in that? How does a practice really get going? I know that this is exactly what you do. You've done for almost 2 decades now, is helping aesthetic practices understand that roadmap. So what's your recommendation?
That's a great question. I really think a good place to start is to know where you stand and where you want to get to, right? I love that quote from Stephen Covey. He said, start with the end in mind. So a good place to kind of slow down and find out where you are and where you want to get to is, have somebody review your marketing. How are you doing with marketing? How are you doing with all these things that matter? Your website, your landing pages, your SEO. Are you getting an A++? Are you getting an F? And then also go a little bit more deeper. Like, let's say you're getting a C- for SEO, you're not in that top 5%. Therefore, you're not getting, most of the free traffic that the top 5% enjoy. Then why is that the case? How are you doing on NAP? How are you doing on Lighthouse Score? All the things that Google cares about, how well are you doing on those? If you're crushing it, keep doing it. If you're not crushing it, what can you do to, fix it or change it? So I suggest booking a marketing strategy meeting. The link is businessofesthetics.org/MSM. It's complimentary for everybody listening. It's something that we do. So go to businessofesthetics.org/MSM, book a marketing strategy meeting, find out where you are, and then obviously get a plan. The plan is, okay, regardless of where you're starting, how do I get into that top 5%? How do I get into a situation where I have an unfair advantage versus my competition? I mean, like I said, 95% of our clients never leave us because the longer they stay and the longer we do what we do for them, the marketing gets better and better and better. And businessofesthetics.org/MSM. We'll put a link on show notes as well. And also, where you're seeing this episode. So hopefully you can take advantage of that.
Absolutely. I think that's such a great idea. Again, begin with the end in mind. And you always give the best analogy. It's my favorite one. I've used it so many times. Is we go back to the days of those paper maps. And if you said, I want to get to Central Park, but I'm somewhere, and you don't know where in New York you are, it doesn't matter if you don't know where you are now, because you don't know which way to go. You just know where it is on a map. So you really need to know where you are to start. And that's really what you bring forward with that marketing strategy meeting, is understanding, where are you right now? What are you doing? How is your report card looking? So definitely businessofesthetics.org/MSM. I would highly, highly recommend. I love putting them together too. I love talking about them. So it's just a wonderful way to really help enhance your practice and your strategy. So with that in mind, I think that is a perfect place for us to close off this episode and say thank you so much, Narain, for joining us today and talking about your journey, your experience in this area, and really helping our listeners get a better grasp and a greater understanding of what they need to be successful going forward in the digital marketing realm. So thank you so much for joining us. And I also want to take a moment to thank our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. We can't do what we do without you. So if you like our podcast, please kindly share it with your friends and on social media. Also, please don't forget to write a review on iTunes or Google Play. It's your thoughts that will help other doctors and practice owners find us and keep bringing you some amazing guests forward. So until we meet again, I wish you all an amazing week ahead. Thanks, everybody, and take care.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Business of Aesthetic podcast series, brought to you by our gold sponsor, Equa Marketing. Would you like to join our growing group of aesthetic industry experts and get featured on the Business of Aesthetics podcast? Or do you know someone who would love to share their strategies for growth in the aesthetic business, providing quality patient care or their clinical expertise? head over to www.businessofesthetics.org podcast show and apply to be featured as a guest on the show. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen. If you would like to engage with today's speakers or any of our past speakers, join our Facebook group or LinkedIn group by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Thank you, and have a great day.